I'm with Ed Anderson here in St. Louis, Missouri. We're at the reunion of the USS Natchez AO 47, and you were on the Natchez back during World War II. Could you start by telling us how you got into the Navy to begin with?
Well, I was born and raised in Des Moines, Iowa, and when I got to summer vacation when I was just 17, I hitchhiked out to Oregon, went to work in a shipyard, Swan Island shipyard. And then I went back and finished school in January, and then hitchhiked back to Portland to work in the shipyard again. And actually on my birthday, I got a letter from a friend that I had went to high school with, and he was being drafted into the Navy, and he was going to be going to Farragut, Idaho for boot camp, and so I just hopped on a bus and went down and enlisted that very day on my birthday.
What year was that?
18.
What year was that?
That was 1944. And went to Farragut and eventually ended up, after leaves and the usual thing that you go through when you first join, ended up in San Francisco and was put aboard the USS Sturgis, a troop ship, and sailed to Hawaii, stopped there in Hawaii, and then on to Eniwetok, where I picked up the niches, and then we first went to Ulithi, which was the main island where the fleet was kept, a group of islands that was protected by islands all the way around. It was a place they could put almost the whole fleet in there.
Ed, what was your assignment on the ship?
Well, I was a seaman, just a regular seaman, apprentice seaman to start with, and then first class, and then eventually they had an opening in the storekeeper in the office, and so I struck for that and got it, and was made storekeeper third class, and that's what I had until I got out.
And what were the major battles that you were involved in?
Well, when we first left Ulithi, we went to Leyte Gulf in the Philippines, and then we were supposed to meet the fleet down in the South China Sea, so we had to wind our way up around through the Philippine Islands, which is still mostly occupied by Japan. And anyway, I ended up down in South China Sea, where we fueled the ships down there, and then it was back to Ulithi. And beyond that, then there was just the usual trips out to where we would go in giant convoys, maybe 100 ships or more, out to fuel the fleet, and then back to Ulithi and load up, and sometimes we'd stay out, and the other tankers that had been fueling would empty their tanks into ours, and then we'd stay out for another week or so, or whatever it took for the fleet to want fuel again.
And when you were fueling, was it just mainly a diesel, or did y'all do?
Well, usually 3 days fueling, and like I say, that then the other tankers would come alongside and refill our tanks, and then we'd go again in a convoy and fuel again. It was just a repeat of nothing exciting going on. It was just other than the fueling part was interesting.
Now, the Natchez had some guns on it, didn't it?
We had a 5-inch gun on the fantail, and then above that there were two 3-inch, and then forward of that was two quad 40 millimeter two banks, one on either side of the ship. And then forward, there are 2 3-inch guns on the bow, and then 20 millimeters just scattered around the ship.
And were there times where y'all actually had to man those guns and fire them?
Well, once in a while, there at Ulithi, they'd have a practice of firing, so you learn how to shoot the thing, and we weren't very good at shooting the target. They'd put it on tow it on a small airplane, and then you'd shoot at the target. But there was one time that I think we got pretty close to shooting the airplane down.
Okay. What was your actual involvement in this shooting of the target?
Well, I was on the 5-inch gun on the fantail.
What did you do?
When we first went aboard. They really handled things really well to make, there was 11 of us that came aboard at one time, and they wanted to make everybody feel comfortable being there. That doesn't sound like the Navy, but it's true. And so they took us all around the ship and showed us each one of the guns, and well, all over the ship, every part of it. And when then they got down to where your GQ station was going to be, and it so happened that the guy that was a sight setter on the 5-inch gun didn't like it, didn't like the job, and I thought, hey, that's for me. And so I said I'd like to be the sight setter on the gun, and so I got it.
And then what did the sight setter do?
Well, a sight setter, there's a crew, I don't know, 10 or 11, I can't remember exactly what it is, but there's on either side of the gun forward, there's a pointer and a trainer, and all they do is to line up the crosshairs on the target. And then there's a guy that sets the fuse on the shell, and he sets it for so many seconds to when they want it to explode. And the time when we ran into that suicide plane that was coming right at us, got straight out from the sea into this harbor where we were anchored. And we were really the only ship that could fire on this because there were ships all around. And it came in straight off of the sea, and so we had, and it was coming right at us, right at the fantail of the ship. And so we had the only clear shot at it. So anyway, they fired the thing, and it hit up above and a little bit behind it. So then I cranked there's 2 little dials, one for elevation and the other for a lead. And I cranked them both to make it a little bit forward and a little bit lower altitude. And the next one came a little bit closer. And the real hero of that firing was the guy that set the fuse to get it exactly at the right place. It was exploding right where the plane was, but it was off target. So then on the third time it was I cranked it up again, and that time it hit right on the nose of the airplane. And he's only about 15 or 20 feet off the water, and it just blew him right into the water.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, was that the only time y'all had to actually fire?
That's the only
at a
time
plane?
that we fired. Although we were the 5 days that we were at Okinawa, and that's where it happened in Okinawa. There was an attack, a suicide attack, all day long, every 5 days. We just sat up on the gun, and there was one time that I was still in the sack in the morning. It wasn't even daylight yet, and GQ sounded, And before I could even get up to my gun, they were firing around. The planes were already there. There was an LST that was just off our port side, about several hundred yards from us, and we saw this suicide plane coming in. You could just barely getting daylight, and they had all their guns shooting at it from one end of the LST to the other, and the plane just kept coming. They didn't fly very fast. That surprised me. Or maybe everything was kind of in slow motion, but it was just like an arrow going out, and you just knew that they were going to shoot that plane down. And as the closer it got, the arrow got more broad and then into the side of it, and it just blew the thing up. And it actually turned my stomach when I saw or imagined what was going on over on the ship. But the one that we shot down, and this is something that they usually did, they picked out a target and they went after that target, and you either shot them down or it was going to hit you. But the one that was coming at us, for some reason, and God only knows what the reason was, that after the first shot that we fired, it turned and headed just directly to another LST. And that made it an easier target, because coming at you, you know, you don't know distance. And anyway, they usually picked out a target and then either made it or got shot down. But during the 5 days that we were there at Okinawa, I stopped counting after 30 explosions of ships being hit. It was just, I remember seeing one destroyer that there wasn't anything from the second stack forward. It took the bridge, everything. The guy brought it, the bosun's mate brought it in using the steering, the aft steering, the outside steering, because there wasn't anything left of it. Just, and then another thing that happened, which was really dumb, and I can't imagine the captain doing this, but we were planes all around, and they had signs telling you whether there were all enemy planes or maybe part friendly, or if they were all friendly, so that everybody knew exactly what was going on up above. So that it was condition red, so that anything you see in the sky, you shoot it. And this carrier, the carrier was anchored just beyond where that LST was hit, that first one. And the captain sent off 2 fighters, and one barely cleared the deck when they shot it down. And the other one, I remember it went off, and it went over behind a hill there that came out into the bay. And somebody said they shot that one down too, which was really a dumb thing to do, because...
You're talking about friendly fire?
Friendly fire, yeah.
Now, when y'all were under attack and you shot, and you were the sighter, were you underway or were you at anchor?
No, we were at anchor. We'd been sitting at anchor. As a matter of fact, there was another tanker right in front of us, anchored right. There was 2 tankers in a row. There was a destroyer starboard and down, and that he would have had a beautiful shot at the suicide plane, because it went right by him, but he couldn't fire because there was ships on the other side. And when this one that hit the LST up by us, we couldn't fire at it because the LST was there. and they fly really low, so you can't, like if they were up high, you could shoot over, you'd be shooting over the ship, but so it's a pretty difficult situation. Anyway, we came out unscathed, but how we managed to shoot that plane down, there's just no explanation because we weren't that good.
Now, tell us the years that you were on the Natchez.
Well, 44, 45, and I got out in May of 1946.
Okay. Were you on the Natchez when it, at the end of the war?
Yeah, we were at, we went into Tokyo Bay on the 29th of August. We were the 11th ship to go into Tokyo Bay. And we first stopped and anchored at Yokohama, went by the Yokosuka Naval Base on the way over, and it had never been bombed. It was just amazing to see here. It was just like everybody had gone home for the Sunday, and they'd be back to work the next day. Not a single bomb had hit that ship. It was shipyard. And there was a battleship, I can't remember the name, the Japanese battleship that was laying over on its side, and a cruiser in the bay there that was sunk. But it was a feeling that you just couldn't get any other way of going in there into enemy territory, even though they said that the war was over. It was just a strange feeling when we sailed in there.
Like an uncertainty, is this a trap or
Well,
something?
you just kind of wondered what's it going to be like? How are you going to be accepted by the people that are there? You just don't know.
And did the shipmates have any idea of the atomic bomb and what had happened there? Had news
Oh yeah,
reached the ship?
we were notified. That's one thing. They got the information out pretty regular. On the 6th of August, we got notified that they hit with this new. We even knew there was a new kind of bomb before that it was exploded. Somehow the word got through to even down to our ship that there was something was going to happen, and of course we all wondered what that might be. But anyway, we weren't too surprised at the fact that that they exploded an atomic bomb. Of course, then it was all explained what the bomb was, and then of course on the 9th, then they hit Nagasaki.
Well, what did they tell you about the bomb? Do you recall how they explained it?
No, there wasn't any explanation. It was just that we're going to have some secret weapon, a very devastating secret weapon, but they didn't say what it was, that could very well end the war.
So
And then on the 14th, after they made negotiations with the Japanese people that they accepted our terms, and the war was over. That was on the 14th of August.
after you left Tokyo Harbor, did you expect to be sent over to the European theater?
Oh, no, there was never any talk about going. The only talk was is when we're going to get to go home. Yeah, but then we